When Jeff Comes Home, Chapter 3. The room was light when I woke, and the nightstand clock read 4 o'clock. For one frightening moment, I had no idea where I was. Then I remembered everything. I glanced outside the open door to my room, seeing nothing but the wall opposite, and sat up, rubbing my neck, which ached fiercely. One eye on the hallway, I leaned over the bed to grab my clothes. Feeling nothing but a damp spot on the floor, I looked over and saw that the clothes were gone. At some point while I slept, Dad must have come in and taken them. The thought made me cringe. Remembering what he had said about lending me some clothes, I looked around the room. A sweatshirt and a pair of jeans were draped over my desk chair, and he had left a pile of underwear and t-shirts on top of the dresser. As Dad had said, my room was just the way I left it. Taking in the details I had been too tired to notice the night before, I saw my school books from 8th grade still on the desk, homework papers in progress tucked inside them. My knick-knack shelf held the same collection of paperback books, model cars, quartz rocks, and shells. Flyers from San Francisco area sports teams festooned the walls, along with a poster that embarrassed me now, of a blonde supermodel in a bikini. That particular poster was thumbtacked on the ceiling over my bed, and I wonder how anyone could have let me get away with that. Looking away from the poster, I caught a flash of bright color through the half-open closet door. I got out of bed, pulling the sheet with me, and tapped the door lightly with my bare foot, just enough to push it open another inch or two. My old clothes still hung neatly inside, but my shoes had been pushed to one side to make way for piles of brightly wrapped packages, some obviously from Christmases past, others from prior birthdays. Open-mouthed, I stared at the presents, feeling sick. "Oh, Jeff, I'm sorry." It was Dad. I whirled around to face him, clutching the sheet tight around my shoulders. "Did you see the clothes I left for you?" "Yeah," I said, giving him a tight smile. "Thanks. I'll get dressed now, okay?" "Sure," he said, but didn't leave the room. "Could you close the door while I get dressed, I mean? Please." "Sure," Dad said after a pause. "I'll be right outside." He pulled the door shut, but I didn't hear him move away from it. I grabbed the sweatshirt off the desk chair, tugging it frantically over my head, then pulled on the jeans. "Okay?" he asked from just outside the door. "Yeah," I said breathlessly. He opened the door and came back into my room, smiling uncertainly, looking as embarrassed as I felt. "My clothes almost fit you. I can't believe how you've grown. I don't know what I expected." Dad laughed awkwardly. "Connie was always after me to throw your old clothes out." I tried to smile. "I bet you're hungry." "Kind of, yeah. I'd like to take a shower too, if that's okay." "You're so thin," Dad said, coming closer to me. "Why are you so thin?" There was no safe answer. "Is it okay if I take a shower?" "Of course, this is your house too. I told you that." I nodded, looking away from him. "Jeff, are you all right?" Dad said suddenly. "I know what you told me last night, and I accept that, but just to be safe, maybe you should see a doctor, just in case." "Just in case of what?" "No," I said, more forcefully than I had intended. He frowned, and I tried to paste on a reassuring smile. "I don't need to see a doctor. I'm fine, really. Can I take my shower now?" "Yeah," he said abruptly, "but one more thing." I could not prevent the sigh that escaped my lips. "Take that thing off, will you?" I looked at him, confused. "The earring. Take it off. I'll dispose of it." My stomach turned over, and I felt the hot rush of blood to my face. This whole time he's been looking at me and getting sick. I reached up to my left ear and detached Ray's gift with more force than necessary. I popped the pin back in place and handed him the earring. "Don't say anything else, Dad. Just don't." He took it in obvious distaste, leaving me alone to take my shower. I turned the water up as hot and hard as I could stand it, letting the hard jets pound away at my shame. Then, remembering, I stepped out of the shower and locked the bathroom door. The realization that I had privacy, that Ray was not in this house, and could not impose himself wherever I was, hit me with an almost physical shock. I stayed in the shower as long as I dared. but I knew at some point I would have to face them. As a point of pride, I decided to go downstairs on my own rather than have Dad come looking for me. Charlotte and Brian met me at the foot of the stairs, two strangers. Brian really hadn't changed much. He was small for 7, slim and compact. Charlotte was the real surprise. At 14, she looked like a shorter, curvier version of our mother, Malia. She looked so much like Malia, whom I had last seen when I was 5. I couldn't help but stare. Charlotte blushed, but she did not look away from me. Jeff, she said, trying to signal me with her eyes that something was up in the living room. I shrugged, not bothering to guess at her meaning. Jeff, is that you? Connie called. Come in here for a moment. I stood in the archway, taking in the room at the glance. Connie was perched at the edge of the love seat, while Dad stood next to her, a hand on her shoulder. I looked past them to the big man with the chestnut pompadour, who sat on the couch across from Connie. He acknowledged my presence with a nod, watching me keenly. Jeff, Connie said, this is Chief Royston. He's with the Wayne Police Department. How are you, Jeff? Royston said. I glanced at Dad. I'm pretty hungry. Can this wait? Yes, he needs to eat, Dad said. Just a few questions then, the chief said. Connie stood. I'm taking Charlie and Brian out to get something for dinner. Chinese okay with everyone? In the general agreement that followed, I entered the room, taking the seat Connie had left. All right, Royston said, leaning forward, staring at me. How did you get here? I looked at Dad again, but his expression was unreadable. How did I get to Wayne, you mean? Yep, Royston nodded. How did you get to Wayne? The guy I was with. He decided to bring me home, I guess. Royston said nothing, watching me for an uncomfortably long time. I don't know where he is now, I added. How long were you with him? I don't know. However long I was gone, I guess. Were you boyfriends with him, Jeff? The chief asked earnestly. I could hear the smile behind his words, and I sat very still. What kind of question is that to ask him? Dad raged, walking over to Royston, who stood to meet him. Hey, Royston said, I know it's tough, but let's get the cards on the table here. Dad paced a little, then sat down abruptly on the easy chair between the two couches. He rubbed his thumb back and forth against his mouth in a gesture of anger that I remembered. The chief sat down again, then leaned over the arm of the couch. He pulled a green lawn bag off the floor, setting it down with a thud on the table between us. What is that? I asked tensely. Well, it's a lawn bag, Royston said. I was hoping you could tell me if this bag means anything to you. No, I said quickly, looking at Dad. I was telling the truth. I didn't know what Royston was talking about. All I knew was that looking at the bag made me feel ashamed. You don't know what's in here? Royston asked. I shook my head. Taking his time, he shook the bag open, reaching deep inside. His eyes on me, Royston pulled out a sleeveless San Francisco 49ers jersey, tossing it onto the coffee table. He reached in again and pulled out a battered running shoe with a sock stuffed inside it. I had thought there was nothing Ray could do to shock me anymore. I was wrong. Okay, I said, I get it. You don't have to. Royston turned the bag upside down, shaking it out. Another shoe, a loose sock, and a pair of cut-off denim shorts spilled out onto the coffee table. All right, Dad said. Jesus Christ, you don't have to turn this into a show. Jeff, these are the clothes you were wearing the day you disappeared, aren't they? Yes, I said, amazed at how calm I sounded. Someone set that bag against the front door last night. Connie found it this morning when she went out to get the paper. He came back, I said quietly. He did. Or was it you who put the clothes out there? Royston asked. Me? I looked at Royston, then Dad. No, I haven't seen those clothes since... My face flamed, since Ray took them off me. Dad stood up. Without looking at me, he touched my hair briefly. I ducked my head, staring at the floor. Royston, that's enough, Dad said. We'll take it from here. Hey, Royston said, we're just getting started. No, Dad said, your part in this is finished, at least as far as Jeff is concerned. He paused. I've got someone coming up from the FBI. You can talk to him later if you're still interested. Royston stood. You still want those patrols, don't you? Dad nodded, standing right in front of Royston, forcing the man either to move back or physically confront him. Royston moved. Yeah, I still want the patrols. I'll keep sending them then, the chief said as Dad ushered him out. As their voices faded, Royston's cajoling, Dad's cool and grim. I wondered why neither of them had mentioned the smell of the things piled on the table. It was not possible they hadn't noticed it. I swallowed hard, tasting bile in the back of my throat. Gagging, I picked the bag up off the floor, holding it against the coffee table. I shoved the stuff back inside, feeling contaminated with every new item I touched. I held the bag out from my body, no idea what to do next. Then I remembered the laundry room. When I lived here before, we had shared the chores around the house, and once in a while I had done the laundry. I hurried to the small room off the kitchen. A wet load of laundry was still in the washer, and I dumped my things inside with it. Then the bag too. I tossed in a measuring cup of Tide, shut the lid, turned the timing dial to heavy soil, and pushed the button to start the cycle. As water began to fill the tub, I leaned heavily against the machine, trying to catch my breath. What are you doing? Dad said. I stood up, turning to face him, my heart racing. My hands tingled, filthy. I held them out, far from my sides, knowing I had to wash them before I touched anything else. Jeff? He sounded bewildered. I'm washing the clothes. You're washing the clothes, he repeated, running a hand through his hair. You mean the clothes from the bag? Yes, I said impatiently. They were dirty. I had to wash them. Jeff, Dad hesitated. The police, not Royston, the FBI, they might need those things as evidence. I had to wash them. Why? Dad asked, looking at me as though I was crazy. I stared back at him. Because they were dirty.